Good night, good night, good night. Yeah, so make yourself out safe. A very special good night to all of you within the sound of my voice. A very special good night to the folk from St. Michael Central and St. Michael Northeast. It is a pleasure to be here this evening because it is not often that you get to be on the platform in what must be considered not an ordinary moment. We have in Mia Motley a proven leader. And I think you all should give her a round of applause just for being Mia Motley. And we have in Tyra Trotman a potential leader, mark my words. And that therefore on this platform we have that which is proven and that which is rising. And it's not every day that you get to be part of that, but that is the way the Barbados Labour Party does it. These are not two people who are in competition with one another. These are two very bright, brilliant, intelligent, hard-working women supporting one another. One has tremendous experience, as Mia Motley obviously does, and Tyra brings tremendous energy to the Barbados Labour Party. It is baffling to me, that the Democratic Labour Party would let Tyra Trotman go. And it should tell you something about the judgment of the Democratic Labour Party, that they have no idea what it takes to run a country, because you cannot run a country by desire alone. You need talent. And that is why we have chosen to associate ourselves with someone like Tyra Trotman. And I gave Tyra my biggest, most heartfelt endorsement because she will be good for the people of St. Michael Central, but she will be really, really good for this country. And so, of course, we ask you to support Tyra Trotman. There's not much that has to be said about Mia Motley. Prime Minister Motley has to be the best Prime Minister the Caribbean has seen. And I say so because I get to watch her lead every day. I get to see Miss Motley in her very strong moments that you see. But I also get to see Miss Motley on the other side that you don't see. When she's asking herself questions. When late at night at 2 and 3 in the morning, she's calling me, asking me about people in my area by name. Because Miss Motley not only cares about the big things, the Prime Minister cares about the small things. In fact, I joked with Mia, when I was made Minister of Maritime Affairs, I had to meet with all the fishermen. And I said, well, I'm a minister now, so we will organize a meeting and they will come and meet me at 6 o'clock by my building, yada, yada, yada. So I told Miss Motley, feeling good about myself, I'm on the ball, I've organized the meeting. She said, are you crazy, Kirk? If you want to meet the fishermen, go to the fish market. That's a true story, and I met a man named Rogie down in Bridgetown. Mia made me go and sit on Rogie's boat. She said, you want to be the Minister of Fisheries, learn fisheries, not from a textbook, not from a scholar. Go and learn fisheries from a fisherman. And so I had to learn fisheries on Rogie's boat. Victor was there. And so we ended up on that boat, and Rogie and I became good friends. God bless Rogie wherever he is. I hope he's seated at the right hand of Jesus now, because Rogie's now with the angels. But that's the kind of person that Mia Motley is. And y'all might have forgotten that when we came to office, this country was in a sordid state. We could not pay our bills. We were borrowing to pay public servant salaries. The country was sick. It was sick. And now you have a Democratic Labour Party wanting you to believe that nothing has been done in this country. So I call the Democratic Labour Party now delusion, lies, and panic. And I will explain to you why. They are so deluded because they believe themselves that they would want you to believe that a country that has 18 consecutive quarters of growth is worse off than a country that had every consecutive quarter of downgrade after downgrade after downgrade. They will want you to believe that we lived in a time where we could not borrow a cent. Nobody was willing to lend Barbados money. And now everybody wants to lend Barbados money because they know under the leadership of Mia Mortley we will pay back. This Democratic Labour Party is a deluded party. And I say to you, and I don't say so casually, that the Democratic Labour Party is filled with lies. I heard on a political platform the other night, somebody sent me a clip of one David Eswick saying all kinds of things about the Child Protection Bill, and that we have not put in place social policies to help the poor and the vulnerable. Let me fix my hat before he fixes it. That he would want you to believe that this country has done nothing for children. So in the time we passed the Child Protection Bill, they were marching up and down through town. I'm going to take a minute on this. They marched people up and down through town in the hot sun. They protested. Yes, they were on Marcia Weeks. They were on every program. They then said that that bill had something to do with LGBTQ plus rights. If you look at the bill, look at it for yourself. It's online. It has nothing at all to do with anything to do with LGBTQ plus. But David Eswick would want you to believe that it does. He's so deluded, he then went on to argue that the other things that we've signed on to would mean that eventually we are going to be part of this LGBTQ plus movement. And to be truthful, a man or a grown man or a grown woman can do what they want to do. It's not my business. But it's not the case for children. And it is not written into our legislation. But he then went on to suggest that we are now signed on to the Convention on the Rights of the Child. I want you to hear me. Because they are so desperate for leadership that they're not only telling lies on the adults, they're now telling lies on the children. So they have said that in the Convention on the Rights of the Child, once we sign on, if they make changes, that Barbados automatically assumes these changes. It is not true. In fact, I was going to read through all the ways to do it. I'm not even going to do it. Believe me when I say to you that even if two-thirds, and two-thirds have to agree for it to be a change of all the countries in the world, and even if two-thirds agree, we have the right as a country to say we do not agree. And Barbados will never agree to anything that says LGBTQ plus rights, LGBTQ plus rights for children. Never. It is never going to happen under this Barbados Labour Party. But they know that Barbadians do not respect that kind of talk. And so they want to associate the legislation that protects children with all kinds of things, stripping from legislation the books, the one piece of legislation that will protect your child. Your child. The one thing. Because the legislation on the books before was from 1904. That's 122 years ago. Black people were not even seen in 1904. The legislation has nothing at all to do with that. But that's what Eswick wants you to believe because they're delusion and they're lies. But they're also filled with panic. I sat in Parliament every Tuesday. I heard Ralph Thorne call the election. I'm fighting for winner. I call the election. I think I frightened when behaving like a madman. But because Parliament is not the place for that, we don't behave that way in Parliament. We conduct ourselves like mature individuals. But he mistaked the behavior in Parliament for how we conduct ourselves in an election. I told him before, the thing now start. The dress rehearsal done. So from the minute we call the election, all kind of things going wrong. They're panicking. Oh, they don't have enough time. Well, we ain't got no more time than normal. Something is wrong with the electoral list, no more than normal. All of a sudden, everything wrong. Because they are in panic. Delusion, lies, and panic. Against a Barbados Labour Party that means a better life for our people. And we have the B means belief. We believe in ourselves and we believe in the people of this country. And we have L in leadership. There is no comparison on any day. On Mia's worst day, she's 1,000 times better than Ralph Thorne on his best day. Let me be real. No, let us be real. Let us be real. And then we plan. This Barbados Labour Party, we plan. There's not a lot of ad hocism. We don't get up and just do things. We ain't just leading and trying a thing. Everything we do makes sense. You heard Mia Mortley yesterday when we were in Haynesville, Vic and Trump. You heard Mia Mortley break down the new bill and all the things that we are seeking to do for people, time after time after time. That's what this government does. We make sure that we think through the things we are doing before we do them. But you have now a very indisciplined lot on the other side. Anybody doing anything that they want. We don't operate like that. And I've said before, I said it the other night, if you cannot run a disciplined political campaign, how are you going to run a country? How can you then run a country? We are forced to believe that when we came to office, the country had $18 billion in debt. Repeat the number. $18 billion in debt. The country now has $15 billion in debt. Did we not then pay down $3 billion in debt? So they want you to believe that we have borrowed so much money that the country is worse off. But isn't 15 billion less than 18 billion? So week after week, the country is running itself to the ground. They then argued that we have too much foreign reserves. You ever hear such nonsense? That the country got too much savings. I say that to you to understand that if they get their hands on the savings, they're taking our country back to hell. Do not let the Democratic Labour Party get anywhere near the treasury of Barbados, is my warning to this country. We cannot let them get anywhere near the treasury of this country. You can't. So night after night, they're trying to ting. Oh, we're going to reduce VAT. Oh, the government is the worst government because they increase VAT. We didn't increase VAT. The Democratic Labour Parties who increase VAT. But they're blaming the BLP for the VAT. But they mean who's increased the VAT. And on top of that, they then come and they argue about 22% tax that they did. They don't even know what they did. They are so unready, but they believe that they can appeal to the lowest base element in the Barbadian spirit, and that the politics that ran itself 20, 30 years ago is the politics of the day. So apparently, I was made to understand that somebody tell David Eswick that he's now to go for me. He's a pit bull, you see. He fancies himself a pit bull. Now, I would never call a man a dog. And I would never, ever in my life let anybody call me a dog either. I like dogs. But he has identified his whole political career as a pit bull. So somebody send a pit bull for me. I have Presser, Canarios, and Caucasian Shepherds. They would kill a pit bull. When you raise dogs, you also have to know that you are the alpha in the yard. This Barbados Labour Party is the alpha in the yard. So you send a pit bull for me. And the pit bull has determined that to get at Kirk Humphrey and Mia Motley, he got to now go and create a whole plethora of lies. Because he believes that he is now the pit bull, a rabid pit bull too, because he's talking and he's frothing like a rabid dog. He calls himself a pit bull, not me. He calls himself a pit bull. Now I hope that tonight the truth will muzzle the pit bull. Because there is no way that David Eswick could come and talk to me on social policy. David Eswick fancies himself an economist and has never gotten a single economic theory right. He advises Ralph Thorne. You all listen to Ralph on the economy? It's like the Joker leading the Joker. So this country is too serious for this kind of madness. You want to compare Ralph Thorne to Ryan Strachan. And David Eswick wants to compare himself not to Ralph Strachan, but to Mia Motley. Because let us be clear. The DLP is running a campaign not to lead this country. All of the people who are running for the Democratic Labour Party hoping Ralph Thorne lose and that they win so that they could be the opposition leader. That is facts. But when we leave home to go on a political platform, we come to support our leader. Because we know that Mia Motley is by far the best person to lead this country. It is not even close. And so we brought to you a manifesto. I sat up last night and I went through the manifesto after I got home, so well after 3 o'clock. I looking at the Barbados Labour Party manifesto. The Labour Party manifesto is a gift to the people of Barbados. And I watched the websites that is run by the Democratic Labour Party. Oh, this can't be real. The government cannot do these things. It is the same Democratic Labour Party that said there is no way we could return free education to UE. But did we not give the people back free education? But it's the same DLP that said we could not return education to the people. We've proven time after time that if we say we are going to do something, that we do it. It's not just idle talk. This Barbados Labour Party, I keep joking with Victor. I was telling Victor, I have a daughter, she's 5. And Tori too, actually. You barely miss it. But I have a daughter who is 5. And children born into this new republic will now get access to $5,000. Trust me. That is capitalizing your children, believing in your children when many people will not take a chance on poor black people's children. And people will say all kinds of things about me and Molly, but I know the heart of the leader that I have. Because I've been able to build out, here what your government did. We brought to you child protection legislation to protect the children. We brought to you disabilities legislation to protect persons with disabilities. As soon as we win the government, if the people allow it and it's the will of God, but y'all want us to win the government or not? The Cabinet of Barbados has already approved the elderly legislation to protect older persons. And we brought together all of the agencies in the social services sector under the Social Empowerment Agency. And they criticized that too. I even advised the Dems that when I was Director of Social Policy, and this is true as John 3:16, when David Thompson sent for me and asked me, it was then 2009, I was Director of Social Policy, David Thompson himself sent for me. Meet me at Parliament was the instruction that I got from Chris Sinclair, who was my minister at the time. The Prime Minister wants to see you. We sat, I did not know at the time it was the Prime Minister's room, but we sat in what was the Prime Minister's room at Parliament. And we discussed the constituency councils. That was the first thing. And he asked me to lead the constituency councils. I remember his words yesterday. He talked a lot. He said, but Kurt, you must be so tired of me talking because you know a lot more about this area than I do. But I got a lot of liking for Thompson. Some people don't, but I do. I didn't think he was good for the country, but I think he was a nice person. But he said to me afterward, let us talk, because he was families first. And we had a long conversation about the need to amalgamate the social services, to be able to make sure that a family can be seen, heard, and felt if you go to one agency. It was the same philosophy that Owen Arthur had. And because we started this work in 1997, and when Mia Mortley appointed me to be minister, this is also true. The Prime Minister called me and she said, Kurt, I want to make you my Minister of People Empowerment. And as Minister of People Empowerment, your job will be to amalgamate the social services, but she says you have to complete the cycle of marginal, no, she called it the process of empowerment for poor people in this country. You have to complete that process. And so what have we set about to do? We set about to do what Owen Arthur wanted to do, what David Thompson would have done, and what Mia Mortley is now doing, which is to bring together these agencies, but you know they criticize it. Let me tell you how that works. As it stands now, if you have a child with a disability, you have to go to the Child Care Board. Sorry, National Disabilities Unit. If you have issues with a child, and that's in NDU, is now in Colomaro. If you have issues with a child, you have to go to the Child Care Board in Cheapside. If you have issues with the elderly, you have to go to Country Road. And if you have issues pertaining to poverty, the Welfare Department. So you have to go to 4 different places. So you could have one person needing to deal with 4 different issues, because that's how life is. Social problems don't come presented to you in nice little packages with bows. One person can be dealing with all these problems at the same time. In fact, most people are dealing with more than one problem at a time. But they're saying that the agency makes no sense. So instead of having to go to 4 different places, you could have 4 problems and go to one place and have your problem addressed. So you're not running around like a cat without a head, you're just making sure that we could take care of people. The Prime Minister, when she and I spoke, she also said, Kurt, your social workers have to be first responders, which means that they have to go out into the community and to work with the people. Social workers should not be sitting in an office waiting for people to come. They have to go out and meet the people where they are and address their problems where they are. And so that is what we have done in the Social Empowerment Agency, but they criticize that too. And so for the life of me, and this is a genuine question, I am curious as to what is the problem the Democratic Labour Party has with the Social Empowerment Agency. Because if they do, what they're saying is that they have a problem with you. They want you to go to 4 different places. They want you to feel like you are struggling. Because the DLP has this philosophy that they are the party of the poor, and that Barbados somehow belongs to them, and that they can do anything in Barbados and get away with it. So that is why Ralph Thorne was sprint from Christchurch South to St. John, because he doesn't care about the people. You know, when he left, he did not even tell the people in Christchurch South he was leaving. Just straight to St. John and hope to win a vote. This election, my friends, is way too serious. We are literally gambling with the future of our children. We are literally gambling with the safety of the old people in this country. No government before this government has done what we have done for the poor. You heard the Prime Minister announce an increase for the 2nd time in welfare. We raised welfare from 40%, by 40% when we first came, and we just raised it by an additional 30%. But let me explain now, I'm done with Eswick. David Eswick, this is the funniest thing for me. Eswick has now argued that because we spent more money at the welfare department that we don't care about poor people. Make it make sense. The math ain't mathing. Now, if I were a school teacher, I would ask him to show me the right side of the page. I gotta see the work in, because they ain't making any sense to me. How is it possible? When we went through COVID, most of us after COVID experienced some form of hardship, true or false? When COVID was done with, most of us didn't work in. Many Barbadians could not feed themselves. This government gave tens of thousands of hampers to poor people, middle-class people, rich people, because everybody was struggling. Everybody was struggling. So, of course, after COVID, this thing is so, I can't say idiotic, because it's not a proper word, but it's really something that should be peddled by idiots. Eswick should know better. Unless he doesn't, of course. So after COVID, we increased the amount of money that was going to the people. But that ain't obvious to you. So he gets on a political platform and argues that we spent more money on poor people in 22, 23. What is obvious? Because we had a responsibility immediately after COVID to look after the people. But on the political platform, he says, oh, look, the government now spending all this money on the poor. They got more poor people, the people suffering. Yet at the same time, Ralph Thorne argues that if he becomes the Prime Minister, he's going to give more money to welfare. So if welfare has more money, unless he's giving it to them to sit down, he's going to be giving it to them to spend too. And there has been no government in the history of this country that has disbursed more funds in the interest of the poor than this administration. Not one. So when he argues that we are spending more money on poor people and trying to make a point, you all have to tell him, but it is a good thing that we elected a good government that spends its money on the good people of this country. And they say all kinds of things. They argue all kinds of things, making a mockery of you day after day after day, because they believe they could say anything and get away with it. But when we determined that we had to spend more money, it is because more people were suffering. Y'all remember COVID? You know, the Democratic Labour Party is so deluded. I told you their delusion, lies, and panic. That they want to argue that COVID made no difference to the lives of people, and that somehow you could just snap up and get back to work. Let me tell you this. I will spend a few minutes on crime. I don't know how much more time I have. 5 more minutes. Thank you. But they would have, you want to make me forget the point I was making. So I will go on to crime. This administration, oh, the two are linked, that's why. This administration, your government, we determined that we wanted to meet with the young people of this country. I want all y'all to, if you're talking, stop talking. This is too serious. We determined we had to meet with the young people of this country under the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is so invested in crime prevention. Y'all don't really understand the heart of Mayor Motley. I'm telling you. Because we will not be having a conversation now about leadership. When we gathered young people together, we gathered people who were head boys, head girls, prefects, all kinds of children, all kinds of people. And those children, when we gathered them together, said that in this country, in Barbados, even though they could see that the country is doing a lot better than before, they are dealing with tremendous anxiety. Your children, the ones who are head boys, the ones who are head girls, you're worrying about the children that are running around, getting themselves in trouble. Worry about all the children. I worry about my daughter, both of them. They told us they were filled with anxiety. And so a lot of them found themselves cutting themselves. They found themselves unable to sleep. They found that they had no relationship with their parents. They said that they were getting more guidance from social media than from the traditional institutions, the churches, even the schools, the community groups. So all the children that are in Barbados now are dealing with those things. Well, let me acknowledge you. I didn't see you before, Davison. Good night. I saw my senior minister over there, Mr. Duguid. Good night too, Minister Duguid. But they said that they were dealing with these issues, anxiety. The other that they were dealing with was aggression, a lot of them. So we see the manifestation of aggression on the streets. But the children are dealing with aggression. And they fear that in this world we're not hearing them. We have to spend a lot of time with our children. When we say that we are intervening on social policies, this is not soft on crime prevention. This is the core of crime prevention. And then they were also dealing with a lot of addiction, not necessarily drugs, but addiction to their iPads and their tablets. You have to take your children outside. You know, these little children don't know what's a roller. These little children don't know how to pitch. Nothing so. They don't know how to play Red Rover, Red Rover, Red Rover. Send Raftar right over so we can send it back. But they don't know how to play these things. So we have to spend more time with our children. But the crux of what we are dealing with is that if we can get more involved in our communities, have the lights on at night. What do you think Charles Griffith is now building so much mini stadiums? What do you think we're making sure all the places have lights? What do you think we run the football tournaments, the cricket tournaments on the evenings? What do you think we have the after-school programs? Because we know you have to find something for the children to do. So when Mia Motley is talking about these things, we are not soft on crime. At the age you were here, I'm not going to go through it, but we did everything. We got more judges, we got more courts, we're doing more for the lawyers, we bring more legislation, but the core of this problem is social. You understand what I'm saying, right? So when you find community workers getting support, you have to support them. I am saying to my colleagues tonight from this platform, if there are people in your communities who have good NGOs, good community-based organizations, spend some money and spend some time with them. Because a lot of those organizations have more legitimacy than the government. People trust Pinelands. When I was a boy, people trusted Pinelands. So I'm saying to you, we are doing a lot for Barbados and a lot for this country. And I ask the people of St. Michael Central, when they go to the polls, your choice is between a former senator who came from St. John, that nobody wanted in St. John, to run against Tyra Trotman, who is a lady of class. Vote for Tyra Trotman in St. Michael Central. And she's endorsed by Arthur Holder, who's one of the best men that I know. And I don't have to say anything for the Prime Minister. She speaks in a few minutes. But in St. Michael Northeast, we have no choice than to vote for Mia Motley, who has been a great representative. I did not get to tell you of her struggles as a leader, but she probably will. Vote for Mia Motley. Vote for Tyra Trotman. In the Pine, vote for Santia Bradshaw. Vote for Marsha Cattle. Vote for William Dugan. Vote for Davison Ishmael. And in St. Michael South, vote for Kirk Humphrey. Allow your Barbados Civil Party to take you all the way home. Good night. God bless. Thank you.